Have you ever looked at the price of Bambu Lab nozzles and think, there's gotta be a cheaper option? I went on AliExpress and picked up a couple nozzles for my P2S, including a high flow one, supposedly. And if these actually work, you could save some money. But if they don't, you could be messing up your prints. So I tested them. All right, so here's what I got. I picked up two nozzles off AliExpress, a standard one and a high flow one. And both of these are cheaper than the official Bambu Lab ones. The normal one was about $12, the high flow one was about $22. And for reference, the stock Bambu Lab nozzle is about $20, and their high flow one is $52. So price-wise, yeah, there's definitely some savings here. But the real question is, do they actually perform the same or better, or are they just gonna be worse? So here's what I wanted to test. First off, flow rate, just to see how much plastic these can actually push. And then we're gonna do some real world prints because honestly, that's what really matters. Now I tested both PLA and PETG just to see if the results were consistent. All right, starting with PLA. I ran the same flow rate test across all three nozzles using the same exact G code. And honestly, the results were kind of interesting. The cheap, non-high flow nozzle actually performed worse than stock. Not terrible, but definitely not as good. Now the high flow nozzle did do better. It was able to push more material like you'd expect. So on paper, the high flow nozzle is doing its job. Then I ran the same test with PETG, and again, pretty similar results. The non-high flow nozzle was a bit worse. The high flow nozzle did a little bit better. But here's the interesting part. The high flow nozzle was only slightly ahead of the stock one, and not even by a huge amount, but just a little bit to notice. So at this point, I'm thinking maybe the high flow nozzle is decent, but the numbers are one thing. What actually matters here is how do the prints look? So for my real world test, I printed out some Gridfinity bins, just nothing crazy, just super simple. And this is where things start to get a little bit more obvious. The stock nozzle, no surprise, looks great. Clean, consistent, exactly what you'd expect. The cheap non-high flow nozzle honestly looked pretty good. Like if you didn't compare them side by side, you probably wouldn't notice much of a difference. But the high flow nozzle, yeah, this one didn't look great. Compared to the others, it actually looks like it's over extruding quite a bit. Surface finish just isn't nearly as clean. And overall, it just doesn't look as dialed in. Feeling the sides of the prints also reveal that they don't feel nearly as good as the stock nozzle. I ended up doing one more set of tests with the Eastman bust here of Batman. And you know, honestly, this is a little bit harder because you can't really see much of a difference between these three. And honestly, I can't really see too much of a difference. Same thing, these were all printed on the same exact G code, just swapping the nozzle in between. Interesting result that these all look very similar, when on the Gridfinity bins, there was definitely a noticeable difference between the three. And here's the thing, I'm sure you could go in, tweak settings, dial it in, and probably get better results. But at that point, you're spending time fine-tuning a nozzle just to make it work like the stock one. And for me, that kind of defeats the purpose because realistically, the stock ones aren't that expensive if we're not talking about the high flow one. So overall, the cheap nozzles do work. The non-high flow one is decent, worse than stock, but usable. The high flow nozzle though, I don't know. Yeah, it pushes more material, but the print quality just isn't there. At least not out of the box. So would I switch to these? Honestly, probably not. For something as important as a nozzle, I'd rather just stick with what I know works. But if you're just experimenting or trying to save a few bucks, the cheaper ones might be worth trying. Just don't expect them to match stock performance. And yeah, sometimes cheaper is just cheaper for a reason. Now, if you want to see another upgrade for the P2S, check out this video right here. This is Adam from the Red Hat Print Lab, and I'll see you next time.